Thank you. Welcome back to That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, anime review episode number 22. We're here discussing the 52nd episode series, each respective roles. Now, I was looking up last night, did a little research. Now, here is what I found out over the course of the previous few episodes that I've obviously down from chapter 1. The second episode is adapting from the prologue and the first half of chapter 3. Last week's episode adapted from the first half of chapter 2. This week is basically the second half of chapter 2 plus one page from chapter 53. Chapter 3. It's basically like right after the second half. It's basically the start of the second half of the chapter. And the whole thing with that is basically Hinata, where she is basically meeting up with these 7 people, which are the 7 days of clergy. That's what they refer to themselves as, and this is basically their anime debut. That's literally what the scene is. It's right where the end of the second episode left off. This is basically just a prologue into the next week's episode, which is probably going to explore that. In the case of this episode, we have a lot of stuff being planned here. They were planning a festival last episode that is definitely from the chapter, not made up for the anime. Where we get a lot of stuff established here, like we get establishment of an anti-magic barrier, not the same one they used in the previous season. This is one basically artificially made and to protect them from other monsters so they can do their jobs. And there's these little generators to play inside the road. They have all the magicals in the area to become a magic barrier to keep the other monsters away. And like there's also like a disc on there to basically like there's also like a crystal there. Like it weighs like 10%, but it put those 10% to good use. Okay, so they also mentioned that the army is closely being finished being built back up. There's a little bit what goes on in Falmouth where Yoma is being taught basically proper manners by the previous king, probably so he can assume the throne from his own brother. And that's from Diablo, who's mentioning this. No mention of basically his future wife per se. Yes. So yeah. So they established that. And also Reaver has finished drawing up the plans from Liam's new capital. Yes, the capital she destroyed in the previous season of the show. Yeah, and Gel, despite being tasked also building the roads, he's also been has to help out with building this capital, which he of course is working with like the blacksmiths. Basically, everyone's all working together this episode, like given various tasks to do, and they'll accomplish them together. That's the best way to describe this episode, and it basically does it really, really well. Now, I did describe the last episode as like it felt like basically like an episode from the Slime Diaries. You know, just relaxing, just a day in life of the just basically just a slice of lifestyle of what's going on in the Kingdom Tempest. This is kind of, now the last episode I did describe like that, and that's kind of true, and that's because basically that's how the chapter is presented. I'm sure the Slime Diaries manga probably inspiration from this particular chapter for that particular series. This episode mostly put, for some reason, it was featured any dryads this episode. This is like the last episode did. So, here are tasks everybody's given. Now, Rigert is in charge of making the festival that they're going to basically create the Founders Festival, which is going to be explored in Book 8. Because all that is set up for Book 8. Because that's not going to happen here. Because we're going to do the 7 days of clergy. Because basically the main storyline with basic Book 7 is the West Holy Church. Which they brought up. And it was there kind of throughout the events of the previous season of the show. And this book basically built up on that. Okay? And also, Reaver spends the whole episode in slime mode. He does not go to his human form until like the last like 10 minutes of the episode. Yeah. He also is drinking some juice, which is kind of interesting. And of course, also Shuna helps out too. Shizu basically is told just to stay by Ryu's side with her Star Wolf. That's basically his pet. And she's like, okay, yeah, maybe she can maybe she could do carrying him where he's basically has her breast right on top of him, and him loving it. Well, that's Rimuru for you, and of course also joke about. Well, there's also a joke about Shizuna's bad cooking, which has been a recurring gag in the series. A beautiful woman, but their cooking is terrible. Yeah, but good episode overall. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yep. Yeah, I actually watched the episode last night, but because of how late it was getting, and I didn't want to wake anybody up, that's the main reason why I decided to do this today. Yep. So, with this particular episode, we've gotten through the prologue, the first two chapters, and like halfway through chapter 3. Now, if you're curious, how many chapters are in book 7? Book 7 has approximately 6 chapters, and my guess is that the very next episode will cover the second half of chapter 3. Now, it does seem kind of weird that the series did this, where, like, the first episode of chapter 1 started the prologue, start with chapter 1, then you have the second episode start with the prologue and the first half of chapter 3, and then last week's episode, the first half of chapter 2, and this week is the second half of chapter 2. Not sure why that the studio did this for, but it's fine. It doesn't unfold the story, because kind of in a way, these stories take place around the same time as each other. And they're just trying to catch up with what happened the previous season, per se, but great overall. Loved it. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Excuse me, and do not hit the dislike button. I'll see you all later for at least one comment corner I have ready right now, plus reviews for Case Closed. This is review Case Closed, Blue Exorcist, which this will be the, I think like the penultimate, I think like the third to last episode of the season. There's also Martial Magic Muscles and Blue Exorcist. So technically we have 4 anime plus like 1 hour video, but hopefully I'm going to get all done today. Maybe. That just maybe in that part. Okay? Next video. Later. Bye.